If you want to show your support and encourage my website and my YouTube channel, you can become a patron. Simply visit Patreon/Diorama Workshop today.
I want to give a huge thank you to Chris Jones for sponsoring today's video.
Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. My name's Frank Diorio. Today we're doing something really neat. It's how to transform your Death Star basic hallway displays from this basic white strip in between the levels into a more detailed and interesting look using skins that will resemble the cross-section illustrations that you see in your favorite DK books. The skins on their own don't look like much, but it really does elevate your final display to another level. So sit back, enjoy. You're watching DioramaWorkshop.com. Here's what you're going to need in order to do your basic hallway connectors. You're going to need a base, which is a black poster board. You're going to need the Death Star basic hallway connector decals available for free on the website. The decal connector blueprints, which give you the dimensions and some of the instruction options. You're going to need either scissors or an X-Acto refills, pencil sharpener, a black Sharpie to do the edges, and a glue stick in order to stick it to your diorama. Now the cool thing about the Death Star basic hallways is that there's two different ways that you can display them. You can place them one on top of each other like you see over here, and this will allow you to place other diorama sets on the sides. Like if you'd put a trash compactor here or Death Star conference, you could build a whole wall of Death Star. Or if you have less space, you can place them horizontal on a shelf like this. So if you have a long shelf, then you can just take them and place them one next to each other. I'll get back into that a little later. Now, in order to get your free decals and blueprints, all you need to do is go on my DioramaWorkshop.com website. You're going to go to tutorials and then scroll down to speed index. Once you're there, keep scrolling until you reach Star Wars A New Hope and go to basic hallway connectors, and you're going to click on decals yes. Scroll down. Here's images of what the decals look like. It's a preview. And what you're going to want to do is scroll until you get to here, the PDF icon. Click on that. That opens the PDF. You can save this to your desktop or print it directly from the computer. Now to get your blueprints, you go back to the speed index under hallway connectors again, and this time select yes under blueprints right over here. Click on that. Same thing, keep scrolling down until you see the PDF icon. Click on that, and there you go. Save this to your desktop for later use or print it directly from the computer. So if you look at the decals, you'll notice that even though they look the same, there's actually two different sets very separate from each other. One is the side-to-side level diorama, and the other one is for stacked multi-level. There's a slight height difference between the two, so make sure that you choose the correct version if you're displaying stacked or on a shelf side by side. Now you won't have to print all 6 different patterns. The reason that I put 3 is to give you an option of what kind of skin decal or texture that you want to use for your cross-section display. If you decide to do the cross-section beams for your display, if you're doing a side-by-side, you'll only have to print pages 1. If you're doing the stacked multi-level display and doing the beams cross-section, you'll be printing page 4 instead. Same thing for the neon cross-section. If you're doing side-by-side, you'll only be printing page 2. If you're doing the stacked multi-level dioramas, you'll only be printing page 5. If you decide to just go with the plain route, which matches the color of your Death Star wall panels. If you're doing side by side, you print only page 3. And if you're doing your stacked multi-level, you do only page 6. Once you decide on what pattern you want to use for your cross section, the number of pages you're going to print of this will depend on the size of the diorama that you built, how many levels you need to cover, and be it either the horizontal or vertical stack option. Now, the way that I'm doing it is I'm attaching the direct decals to a poster board so that the thinness of these papers won't show creases between the layers of your foam core, because your LED ceiling, it consists of the top of the ceiling, and then you have the top of the LED box, and then you have the side of the LED box. And if your 3 foam core layers aren't 100% flush, you'll get this tiny, tiny sort of like embossed look. And if you use just plain paper like this, you could potentially see the defects. By attaching this to a cardboard or a poster board, what you're doing is that you're making the beams thicker so that it'll camouflage the actual strip and not give you any defects in the deformations of the foam core. Does that make sense? So like we saw in the decals, the difference between your 2 blueprint sheets is really to show you the side-by-side display or the stacked vertical display. What you notice most evident is that side-by-side has a 3 centimeter height over here, and then a stacked vertical display has a 3.5 centimeter height, because you're adding the foot or the base of the diorama that's placed on top of your ceiling height over here. So if we're doing the stacked vertical display, what you'll be doing is cutting a 3.5 centimeter high by 72 centimeter wide black Bristol or poster board. Now, the width obviously is based on the width of your diorama. If your diorama isn't 72 centimeters wide, then you just measure the exact width, and that's the width that you're going to be cutting for your poster board. Likely it would be divided in 6 centimeter increments, because that's the size of your Death Star panels. Now, if we're doing side by side instead, then what you're going to be doing is that you're going to be cutting a 72 centimeter wide by 3 centimeter high black Bristol or poster board paper. Now, sadly for me, my poster board measures 71 centimeters wide, so I'm missing 1 centimeter, which is a real bummer. Now, if I do the side version, I have 56 centimeters here, which means I'd have to cut 16 centimeter extra shape over here in order to give me the 72 wide. But the 16 would fit 3 times over here, so that's a good way to save some money and get some maximum value from this poster board. So the first thing you want to do is you want to calculate how many thicknesses you're going to have. So here I have 3 stacked, one on top of each other, which means that here I have a stacked, here I have a stacked. However, on this top one, I don't have a stacked diorama, which means that I don't have that thickness of the ceiling, or not the ceiling, but the thickness of the foot base over here, which means that for this skin over here, I'm going to want to put the side-by-side height of 3 centimeters and not the 3.5 centimeters that I'll be using for these two. Okay, I'm going to measure at 3.5, then another 3.5, which will bring me to 7, and then 3.5, which brings me to 10.5. From there, I'll go to another 3.5, which will bring me to 14. This gives me 4 strips of 3.5, and then for the top, I said I needed 3 centimeters, 17, 20. Again, the number of strips depends on how many stacks you have. I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side. 3.5, 7, 10.5, 14, then 17, and 20. Now, before I cut, I'm just going to identify which one are the 3. So these are 3, these are 3. This is 3.5. 3.5, and then 3.5. Okay, you're going to align your ruler, take your X-Acto blade, and then cut. Put this aside for now. Do the same for your other pieces. That's the 3 centimeter. 3 centimeter. Align, cut, align. Oh, here comes Roxy. Cut. One last one. Align. Now take one of your strips, and I mentioned that I needed 16 centimeters. 32, and then at 48. Then put your ruler here. We're going to do the same thing. 16, 32, 48. Take one of the 3 centimeter strips. I'm going to have to do the same thing here. So 16, 32, and then at 48. 16, 32, 48. Align. Throw this away. Align and cut. We have this gap here because I didn't have the full 72 centimeters. I forgot to mention in the materials that you'll need a Scotch tape or a masking tape in order to connect these so that when you attach your decals, it's not going to fly all over the place. Align your poster board to each other like this. Try not to overlap. You want it to stick side by side like this. And then you're going to take a little piece of Scotch tape and you're just going to apply it in the center like this. Press. Then we're going to want to flip and then do the same thing on the other side. This way we have our long 72 centimeter strip over here. We're going to do this for the other 3. So I now have 3 strips which represent 3.5, 3.5, and 3. And that will go on to, over here, my 3 stacked 3.5, 3.5, and 3. Now, if you've used my decals before in past projects, you'll notice that I have the same red cutting guides over here that I've used in the past. And this will allow you to align your ruler and give you the proper cuts for the dimensions of your decals. I'll be showing you the comparisons between all these 3 skins. I'll start by cutting this neon pattern. Now I want to do the horizontal cuts first. I want to start cutting just not at the end of the paper, but just in between, and then stop before I reach the end because I don't want to cut all the way through. I want to keep my top guides, my vertical guides intact, so I'll be able to cut this straight along after. Second cut. Now 3 of these strips will give you 72 centimeters. So that'll help you know how many pages you need to print for your display. I don't need these in-betweeners. I now have my 3 strips. And what I'm going to want to do is place them onto the black poster board. If you used a full-size label sheet, you'd be able to peel this and then put it on top over here, but I'm using this as an example, so I didn't want to waste any decal sheet. So I'm just going to take some glue stick over here. I'm going to apply the glue stick on the back here, and then some on the cardboard. So align it with one of the corners there, and then align it with the bottom surface, and then press down. Now I'm going to be doing the same thing over here. I'm going to be applying this like that. Place glue stick here. Some glue stick on the backing of the cardboard. Then I want to align over here and at the bottom and press down. Now we have one more little section, and apply this and then some more glue stick to the back of your poster board. Align that. And then align with the bottom and press down. Now we have a completed strip. Okay, let's cut this one now. Now you're not going to have to cut all 3 of the different textures. It depends on what texture you're using. I'm just showing you here how to cut them. You'll be able to see a comparison of what they look like once they're placed. 3 sections equals 72 in theory. I'm cutting with my left hand. I'm being more careful because I'm right-handed. Okay, and then I want to do the same thing over here. And we have our 3 strips over here. We're doing the same thing we did on the neons. We're going to apply the glue stick all over the surface of this, and then apply it on the backing. And then I'm just going to align this, and then align it at the bottom. There. Glue stick on the cardboard. Align. This one you could overlay a little bit just to hide the black, like this. And then we have one more small section over here. Glue stick here. Overlap a little bit. Align at the bottom. Now we have this example. Now for my favorite, which is the cross-section girder beams there. Align. Don't cut all the way through. Start here. Stop there. And cut. Cut. Align and cut. If you were printing on full-size label sheets, you don't want to waste them, so I would have cut this like I showed you now and put this aside for a later use, because I'll be making more rooms down the road. I have the hiccups now. Oh my lord. Again, I'm using my left hand just for the camera. Don't do this at home when you're using your not good hand. So I'm just going to go very slow. I almost chopped my finger there. Okay, with the red cutting guides, and then cut. 1, 2, 3 is what I need for the 72. This I'll put aside for future use. Apply the glue stick on that. Apply it on the back of the, I almost said foam core, on the poster board. Align the corner and then align the bottom. Then press along. Remember, align your shadows over here with the shadows on this side. You don't want to put one side like this with the shadow at the bottom and the shadow at the top. So we're going to be placing it like this and overlapping it slightly so that it looks like the H over here repeats the same way as the rest of the patterns. So some glue stick here, slightly overlap, align at the bottom. There we go, like this. And one last little section over here. Glue stick. Now I'm doing this temporary just to show you what it looks like. If I was doing it for real, I would make sure that the glue stick extends all the way past. And then, oh, I forgot to put glue stick here. And then I would put it all the way to the edges also on the cardboard, not just the center. Overlap a little bit over here. Then align at the bottom. There we go. And we now have our 3 variety of strips. The neon style at the top, the center plain bluish gray that we have for the decal panels matching, and we have the cutout beams at the bottom. Okay, now I'm going to cheat a little bit in this part of the video, because for my display, what I want to do is put it horizontal. So I'm not going to apply the glue stick the way that you would at home, because I want to be able to take these decals off in order to replace them with the proper side-by-side strips later on. So I'm just going to put some Scotch tape double-sided for now, and then we'll be able to show you what it would look like in a stacked version. If you were doing it for real, you'd be applying glue stick on this center piece over here. You could put some at the bottom as well, but don't put any on the base of the top diorama, because if ever you need to change the lights here or something happens, you want to be able to move this diorama out of the way or lift it if need be. And you wouldn't be able to do that if it's attached to this front plate over here. So I'm just taking some Scotch tape and I'm folding it over itself like this in order to do a double side tape. And I'm going to attach that to the front like this, loosely. That way I'll be able to show you what it looks like, but I'll be able to remove it easily after. So let's place the first cutout. All you do is align it with the floor, the bottom. With the Scotch tape, it's a bit more difficult because you can't manipulate it like glue. But it'll show you the effect that we're trying to make. So now instead of white basic foam core, we have a fancy skin pattern that makes it look much more interesting. Now if we wanted, you could place just a simple strip like this, color strip, which would give you the illusion of the same color as the walls. If you don't want this, you could place the version of the cutout beams in the same way, just like that. You'd be using glue stick, which would make it stick much better. But this is what this effect gives us. If we get closer, you could see how it looks like cutout beams, like the cross sections from the books. Just going to put this back again, just to show you what it looks like when it's full color. Now here it's not perfect. You see where the papers are attached, where the seam is, but that's because we didn't glue it properly. This was just temporary for you to see the three options. So this is what it would look like full color. This is what it looks like with the cross section. And then at the bottom, you have the decorative neon style. Here comes Roxy. Hi, Roxy. Are you coming to make a diorama? What are you up to? Now, in the same way we did the stackable display, we're going to now be switching to the side-by-side decals. Now, again, the same thing happens for this one, which is you choose which pattern you want to use. You can mix them up, or you select the one that you want, and then that is the number of the page that you want to print, and then you print the number of pages based on 3 strips equals 172 centimeter wide diorama. Let's do the same that we did with the other one. Start just before and stop just after. Don't cut all the way through. Align and cut, align and cut. All these little center angel hairs there, we want to get rid of that in the garbage. So remember, I said that 3 strips equals 172 centimeter diorama. If I was to do the 3 lengths over there, that would be 72 centimeters number 1, 72 centimeters center, and 72 meters for the right. So here's an example. If you use the plain color on your side-by-side, you hide the white facade and it matches the color of your decal skins. Now for the neons, you'd be cutting it the same way. Just a line. Cut. Roxy found an old straw and she's going bats crazy. And we just do this for the whole sheet. There's nothing complicated about this build. It's just a finishing option to make your display more deluxified, if you want to call it that. All these little spaghettis, we don't want that. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is what we're keeping. So this is what your option number 2 would look like, the neon strips. The neon strips is more a cosmetic design. It matches the neon panels that you see in the Death Star itself, and it looks pretty cool. Now the decals that I want to use is the girder cross-section beams. So I printed these on full-size label sheets so that I'll be able to mount them perfectly onto the poster boards. So I'm just going to cut them in the same fashion that I showed you for the other papers. You're just going to align your ruler with the red guide marks over here. You're going to start cutting not at the end of the paper, just before the decal starts. And you're going to stop just after the decal before you go off of the paper. In the same way, press down really strong on your ruler. Always best to use a cork ruler. Now, I said that you need 3 strips in order to make 172 centimeter diorama, and I have 3, so this will be 1 diorama. Now I need 1 more strip plus another 3, so I printed another sheet over here, and I'm just going to cut these and then I'll get back to you. Okay, so I have 3 for 1 diorama, 3 for the second diorama, and 3 for the third diorama. Now what I'm going to do is, just like we do with most of the decals, I don't want the thickness of the white to show when I'm going to be placing it on top of my black poster board over here. So I'm going to use my technique with the Sharpie pen, and I'm going to cover all the sides in black. So if this is the first time you're seeing this technique, what you want to do is you want to use the side of the pen and you want to draw on the side thickness of your decal sheet over here. And you want to do this all the way across. When you're doing the blacks on your decals, you want the decal skin side to be facing outside of your pen, so that when you're tracing the side like this, or when you're applying the color, if your hand makes a mistake and you slip, you're going to be drawing on the back side of the decal and not ruining your actual skin texture. Do both sides like this all the way across. But it's very important that you do not do the ends, because the ends will be overlapping like this. You want to have them clean. If you put black, you're going to have a black line on them. You don't want a black line dividing your 2 sections over here. Oh, here's Roxy. Roxy, are you sniffing a pencil? That's not good for you to sniff that. You're also going to want to do the same technique on your poster board. Do you see the difference when it's white and when it's black? For the poster board, it doesn't really matter what side you're applying your pen on, because both sides are black and it's going to be covered in a decal, so it doesn't really matter. For these, you want to do the ends. End cap over here. Let's just do a quick time lapse now to make things less painful for you. Let the time lapse begin. I'm halfway through and I just realized that I think I just said, let the time lapse begin, and I was supposed to aim the camera back at the table for me to do the time lapse with the footage of me painting all the decals, but all the decals are done. So I guess skipped the time lapse. Okay, so I'm going to grab my 3 centimeter strip here. I'm going to peel the back if I can find it. Okay, here. I'm going to peel this. And now what I'm going to do is, just in case I need to move it because of some misfortune, I will just do some glue stick here so that it'll allow me to manipulate the decal if I need to. What I want to do first is I want to place this in the corner like that, and then, like I did before, it's all sticking to my fingers. And then I want to align. See, this is good that I put the glue stick, because this touched the surface. Had I not put the glue stick, it would have made a big mess and I would have torn the decal. So I want to align it with the bottom over here. Then I'm going to start at the center, move my way out, start at the center, move my way out. Now, because I'm using decal sheets, I'm getting a nice tight fit all the way on both sides. I'm not getting any bubbles like I did on the temporary Scotch tape there, or when I was just doing the tests with the glue stick without making the glue stick extend to the edges there. We have a really nice clean edge over here. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure that the shadows are aligned properly. This is not. This shadow is at the bottom. This one's at the top. I want to have this turned this way. You'll notice these little H's that I call them. So you want your edge of your decal to overlap just a little bit so that the color matches and that it resembles the same H that you see in the rest of the pattern over here. I'm going to peel this, peel and peel. Okay, some glue stick, just a line like that. Make sure that I'm aligned properly, which was like this, shadow up, just so overlap a little bit, pinch at the bottom, switch hands, and then align with the bottom over here. Pull your decal tight so that it doesn't curve up, then go in the center and press towards the left, then center towards the right. And we have a nice seam. You can't even see the seam actually. Very nice. And because we didn't put a black Sharpie pen over here, you're not seeing a black line over here. You're seeing a continuation of the patterns. Shadow up, glue stick, peel, peel, apply, overlap a little bit, keep my finger at the corner, and then align it like this with the bottom of my poster board. Center out, center out. If I see little excesses sticking out past the decals, I can trim that by aligning the ruler to the top of the decal and using the X-Acto blade to just make a clean cut. This little spaghetti string over here. Now I have a perfect top and a nice clean bottom over here. Now once your strip is done, then on the ends you can do your black Sharpie. And if you trimmed anything on the side, you'll be wanting to recolor that as well. I want the decal side facing this way. So here I trimmed a little bit. So I'm going to recolor this black. Let's repeat this for the other two. If you only had one diorama, you'd only need one. So now I'm going to grab my next strip. I'm going to be putting the decals and the glue stick the same way that we just did the first one. And then I'll get back to you as soon as I finish the two. I just noticed that Roxy is hiding. She was sleeping all this time in the foam core scraps. Hey Roxy, you're so cute. You're all wet. You went for a drink again, didn't you? Yes. Now that I know that this is the actual skin that I want to use, put some glue stick all the way on the surface of the foam core here, and then we're going to be aligning this centered and place it like this. Make sure that your shadow is facing downward and not upward. It doesn't really matter, but it looks nicer when the shadow is hitting down like that. So a fair amount of glue stick all the way across, and then align, and then make sure it's flush at the bottom, then press all the way across like this. There, and you have a nice clean decal. So we have one done. Let's move on to number two. A good amount of glue stick all the way across. Take your shadow of your decal and place it to match the shadow that you did on the left side. So if I had done shadow at the top, I would have had top. Here I want shadow at the bottom like I have here. I want to align this centered with the 72. I want to press down, align flush at the bottom, all the way across. It's looking really nice. This will take a little longer than if it was hot glue, but you don't want to use hot glue because it'll make bumps underneath. When you place the two side by side, you get a nice continuation. Last but not least, place it along here. across. Shadows at the bottom. A line flush at the bottom over here, and then continue flush at the bottom, flush all the way across. Now I notice that I have some white on the left side here that is exposed, so I'm going to measure this and I'm going to do a strip for the side over here too. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this with the glue stick like I did the other one. Shadow facing the same as the front. I'm going to align this with the corner and with the bottom, making it flush. So this gives me a nice cross section on this side too. Now because we use white foam core on the ceiling here for the LEDs to reflect, the white is unsightly when you have the decals here like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go buy some more of this poster board, and then I'm just going to measure to the appropriate size, and then I'm just going to apply it. Make a nicer finish. It's going to accentuate this, and it's going to hide the lights, except for the lights that show up in the back over there. Compared to having it white on the top like that, it'll look cleaner. When you place more than one 72 centimeter diorama, you get some really nice perspective. So this is what your basic Death Star diorama looks like when it's placed side by side. And there you have it, a simple way to transform simple strips into fully embellished diorama displays for your Death Star basic hallways. So if you enjoyed this, please like the video. It helps the channel grow. Subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want to leave a comment and let me know which of the skin strips that you would be using in your own display, I'd like to hear that. And also, if you've been hesitant in joining Patreon for supporting the channel because it's too long a commitment, YouTube has now allowed me to activate the super thanks, which is specific to each video. So if you're watching a video that you really like, then you can click on the super thanks and give a tip like you would at the restaurant, and the proceeds for that will go to buy more materials and allow me to make more builds and eventually more videos, tutorials for you guys to watch in the future. I was going to say upcoming mixed with future. Anyhow. I think I've spoken enough. It's time for me to say goodbye for now. So, Frank Diorio, DioramaWorkshop.com. Ciao for now. Bye. Thanks for watching DioramaWorkshop.com. If you want more interactivity, you can follow us on these multimedia platforms. If you have a question about past or future Star Wars Celebration workshops, send me an email at dioramaworkshop.com@gmail.com. If you have a Facebook account, join the official Star Wars Celebration Diorama Builders fan club today. If you like the video, please subscribe, share, and tell your friends to come check us out. If you want to see even more Star Wars Celebration crew coverage, click on the link to warp to dioramaworkshop.com, the official Star Wars Celebration Diorama Builders website.